Checking, checking. Hello. Hello, everybody. Well, I'm sorry I missed the live stream yesterday. I forgot what day of the week it was. Because all I do every day is I sit in my office and I work remotely. I'm remotely working. Am I talking to anyone yet? Hey, look at that. I got 2 viewers. Abdiel Miranda. Hi. Hi, how are you? Today we're going to talk about last weekend's stop motion subject, Unique Toys Sorter. It's a weird figure. It's I have to wonder if maybe the guy that designed this went on to work for Fans Toys, because they are definitely taking that sort of ad hoc approach. I mean, there's a little of the Unique Toys genius. There's some clever stuff, but there's a lot of linkages. And if you're familiar at all with, especially the Unique Toys, their recent movie figures, they're super elegant and don't have silly little linkages. Man, I meant to put him in car mode earlier so that I could just... because I want him back in robot mode by the time we're done. It's going to be a lot of transforming today. Top things off, I want to make sure I get the name right. Leader Optimus correctly determined the point where the stitch occurs, where the primordial mode occurs. Because as I explained last week, I'm not really transforming this from I don't transform it from car to helicopter per se. I transform it from car to the perfect in-between mode for all 3 modes, and then from there to helicopter. And then I have to put it back in the in-between mode, which in this case was really difficult because it's such a weird, exploded in-between mode. But I put it back in the in-between mode. I put the camera back. At the point where I get to the in-between mode, the first time I write down where the camera is, because I have gradations on the floor that tells me how far I've slid the tripod out. I've got gradations on the riser, the stem, so I know how tall I had the camera, and then I've got the geared mount so that I can just very carefully adjust the camera. And I line it up with the previous picture at the midpoint, and then from there I go to robot. And that way I only have to film 3 half sequences instead of if you wanted to go to every mode like I do in the speed run, without using this technique, you'd have to film from car to helicopter, and then you'd have to film from helicopter to robot, and then from robot to car, and then car back to robot, and then robot to helicopter, and then helicopter to car. And at the end of all that, you'd have to make sure the car was in the same spot. I had someone compliment me on the car stitching up, but that's not really where it's stitched up. I stitch it up at that midpoint. But let's do a full transform of this guy. We'll go to helicopter mode, just arbitrarily. All right. So I just like to straighten everything out. It helps to get the arms situated right, but you might find me getting the arms a little bit wrong and having to adjust them accordingly. But I mean, basically we're just trying to get the elbow joint to face what was the top of the shoulder, and you turn the whole arm around, then you fold it, and you insert it into itself. So for all the other modes, it's in this L shape, for helicopter mode, and that's why that's part of the primordial, because this is the way it is for 2 modes. We'll do the same thing over here. You can turn this the wrong way and it'll get caught, so you got to turn it the right way. It's kind of got a one-way valve to it. All right. You can flip out the little rear view mirror things. For 2 modes, they need to be out, at least at some point. And so out is the primordial. but they'll go in by themselves. I actually had to rewind part of the shoot at one point because I started to transform something and then I was like, wait a minute, the stupid rear view mirror is in, not out. But whatevs. We got any comments? I'm kind of the only one here. You sound different. I'm sorry if I sound different. Do I sound different? Like different how? I don't know. Oh, wow, cool. Hi there, Michael Lorber says. Hey, Peeless Drew, what kind of camera do you use? Well, I knew since it was stop motion, back when I got into Stop Motion Studio Pro before I switched to Dragon Frame, but frankly, they all are compatible with Canon's Live View feature, which means it's a DSLR camera, but in Live View, the camera shutter opens and it turns into basically like a low-resolution video camera. And that feeds into the program, and then when you take a picture, it goes through a rigmarole where it like resets the shutter and takes a picture and then resets the shutter back. And because of all that movement of the shutter, I mean, you could get a DSLR that's like movement free, that doesn't have like a mechanical shutter, but those are expensive. So I knew if I was going to go with a regular DSLR and it had to be a Canon, then I wanted to go with something fairly cheap. So what I shoot with is a Canon 40D, just your basic camera. I don't even use the full resolution. I actually use the lowest resolution, which is still a higher resolution than the output video on YouTube. So go figure. I used to shoot on that camera with like the full resolution, and I've got old photo sets that are like super HD. Not quite, you know, not quite 4K or anything, but really high resolution photos, and that took up a lot of space, and it made my editing software just bogged down because it was like, what's with these huge files? Abdiel says if he's correct, he remembers seeing a live stream where I had a Ukrainian accent. That's surprising. If you watch my live streams, you'll see me make mention of things like it being 6 o'clock when it's, you know, depending on your time zone, may not be 6 o'clock. And from that, you can work out what time zone I'm in. I'm in Eastern time zone. I am not from the Ukraine. All right, so let's keep going to primordial mode. Now, technically, this thing is in two halves. So you can kind of transform one half all the way from one mode to the other and then transform the other half. That would probably be like the maximally elegant way to do it. But the primordial is like this done halfway and this done halfway, and it's just like that. So I like the primordial because it reduces my shooting a lot. It makes everything more accurate. Because I get tired near the end of a shoot, so sometimes I start taking less pictures. But we're just getting everything situated halfway. I mean, for this to be out like that. So this untabs and it comes up and then it rotates. I like to park it here. This is kind of the primordial for this joint, is to be parked right on the back of the head, but it helps kind of keep it stable there anyway. And then we have to pull out the wheels. This is one of those weird things that's basically parking. You can pull out this window first, but if you just pop it off, you can pull the window out easy enough. Window / headlight, whatever you want to call it. But you can see it's got some kind of Fans Toy style multi-linkages there, and the wheel itself folds over. But you have to get all this out, because although helicopter mode, it's like that, and robot mode, it's like, I mean, helicopter mode's like this, robot mode is like this, you know. But even going from robot to helicopter, which we're doing, you have to clear these out so that you can transition these side gap fillers. And then if we are going to helicopter, then we can go right back in. But I'm trying to kind of get to like the primordial, so I'm just gonna finish primordializing the top, and then the bottom. I just kind of had the whole thing stood up like this, as it turns out, because it made it a little easier to control the top. And then I could kind of glue this down on the platform, which is what makes the legs stick up like that. Anyway, these legs, this is actually kind of hard to convey in the video, so I'll touch on it. This slides a little bit, but for robot mode, it slides all the way in, and this hole interfaces with that peg to lock the knee so now it doesn't slide, and then the bottom tabs in too. But I couldn't really convey that at the time. It was near the end of the shoot, so I was getting lazier and lazier about it. We straighten the foot out. I like to kind of pull it out. It's kind of a parking situation, but it just makes there be enough space to fold it. And then for most modes, for 2/3 of the modes, the wheels are actually out. And they are, again, on little double linkages, just so they can kind of transition in end fold. So that's primordial. This is... And then this comes up. On this side, it's really easy. It almost goes straight up. But on this side, there happens to be a tab for later on when it transforms right there. And it actually has to go into a tab hole. So this side, you definitely have to kind of like walk it in so that it pegs onto that tab hole. But on the other side, you really don't have to worry about it. And then those just stick straight up. These rotate so much that really is the primordial. So, you know, this is the primordial mode. This is the mode I took it from to get it to helicopter or to robot mode when I shot the video. Name for comments. I honestly might display my MMC Combaticons in primordial mode approximations for a bit. It lets you appreciate the engineering in all modes. If anyone asks, you wouldn't get it. Yeah. Yeah, that's fun. I forget, the first time I did primordial and did like the full 6 transitions was, I'm going to get dinged for saying a bad word, but I think it's pronounced Chigger. And it's the DX9's take on Astro Chain. And the instructions for that actually kind of have a primordial mode. Like the instructions are like, get to this, and then if you want to go to a space shuttle, you know, it's like it was like a choose your own adventure. So they took it from robot to kind of a primordial, and then they tell you like, here's how you get to helicopter, or here's how you get to, space shuttle, and here's how you get to choo-choo train. Anyway, and that was like, I was like, wait a minute. It turns out all triple changers have a primordial mode, and it's like a very definite. I don't know if there's much debate about what it is. So from here, we're going to go to helicopter. So we'll just start with. You have to have this is like, all right, the hips. They're not touched on too much in the video, but this is robot mode. This is helicopter mode. And this is vehicle mode. Capiche? So if we're going to helicopter, we can kind of send that towards helicopter. Alright, so we're going to do a helicopter with the front end now. For that, we want the feet to stay inwards on the double swing, just like they were for robot. So that's why this is primordial. And then you take this, and you have to kind of sneak it past here. You have to rotate it this way, because if you rotate it this way, it's actually going to start pushing on that double hinge. And that doesn't get you anywhere. You're not trying to have this outside the double hinge, you want it inside the double hinge. And you got the wheel, you know, in car mode, helicopter mode, same situation. You walk this out, it's on a double joint again, but you have to kind of bring it up a little bit to get it past this tab right here. So we'll bring it around. And then you can bring up the nose cone. And then this fiddly little bit just kind of, it's the round part of the nose cone. So out of the way, back together. It slides a little too easy, so I had to make sure I managed it like when it was vertical so that it wouldn't go anywhere. Wear gloves to keep hand oils off of the figures. You don't always wear gloves when you transform your Transformers? No, I'm just screwing with you. I have like eczema or something, so I wear the gloves all the time when I shoot to keep fingerprints off because the camera will pick them up. And so I just got used to it, and it's kind of how I present myself. Everyone always asks about that. Doesn't seem so strange to me. So, I mean, this thing comes down, and there's a tab there and a tab there at either end, and it locks them like that. And then you can really rock the whole thing down and line it up for helicopter mode. You also have to flip out the landing gear pods, flip them over. The tab won't quite go in very cleanly like that, but if you lower the pod 90 degrees and line up the tab first, it makes it easier to walk it in. And one of these wheels gives me fits, and it's this one. So, for those of you that are horrified by this sort of thing, I ordered some plastic spudgers if it makes you happy. But that's the front wheel of the helicopter. Now for helicopter mode, robot mode, car mode, you should be like this. But for helicopter mode, you need to turn this over. And this is probably the weakest joint in here. It's just a pinned joint on an H bracket. And when you twist it, you can put a lot of pressure on that joint. They've loosened up a little bit since I first got it, but at first I was like, you know, it wouldn't even move. The guy I bought it from on eBay claimed that he never transformed it, which to me doesn't make sense. I don't understand these people. But there's a little double hinge here, and it's also got an H bracket there, so that's another potential weak point. But the parts are getting small enough now, the joints are getting small enough, it's not so stiff. But you kind of fold that double, and then you fold this double. And now the front end is ready for helicopter mode. I got to do the other side real quick and tab it together, and then we're ready for helicopter mode. This was the side that was particularly stiff, but it's gotten a lot better. Now, Toy World would have been late, or Devil Savior would have been lazy and just put a screw there that you'd constantly have to retighten. But this is a funky Fans Toys-ish figure, but it's built well. It's very sturdily built. So we tab these feet together to the cockpit of the helicopter. And I'm just giving a good squeeze so that we tidy it up. That's the front. Now we'll do the back. So we want to go to helicopter mode. We put the side fillers in, and what we're going to do is just fold this wheel down and fold down the double thing, and this actually kind of tabs. And I like to go ahead and transition this to the back. There's just a hinge joint there for this shoulder mount. So I like that back there. And then this tabs in to kind of hold it together. And you can do the same thing over here. And then this is like a dumb little parts parking thing, but you have to pull this out a little bit to flip that down. And then you can, it really helps to get these turned around while we have room. I do it in the video. And you almost put them together. Now you can tuck them in between the front bits here. That's about ready to go. And you can see the landing gear came with it. And then it happened automatically, but you can close this. So that's kind of the back of the helicopter. You have to get the goddamn rear view mirrors out again. And you turn the head around, just so you can't see the head from the bottom of the helicopter. There's kind of a tabbing issue with the helicopter that I'll get into here in a minute. It would help if I'd fold the wheel in there. See, even I make mistakes. Just not when I'm very slowly taking one picture at a time for 3 hours. Then I don't make any mistakes. For the helicopter, you do flip this up. There's just another double joint there. And you lay this all through here into a channel, and then you tab it all up. And then even the rotor kind of tabs in, so you pull it out to make it spin freely, and you fold down the little aileron. I don't know what's called. Make sure the rearview mirrors are out, and then this does that. See, it's not too complicated. And if you've left space the whole time, you're not going to run into any issues with collisions or whatever. Alright, so, and that shiny little hinge joint there, it's less shiny than this shiny thing, but this little hinge joint, it actually kind of tucks under there. So you do that on both sides. And you flip out the fucking rear view mirror again. Later on it gets harder and harder to access it. Could I invite you to flip out? Thank you. It's like very loose, that side. This is the very side that got accidentally transformed at one point. But we do this. So you can see that's, for those of you who are following along at home, this is where you should be. I mean, this should be like this. It just kind of fell out of its joint there. Alright. So we're doing this. And then we're just zigzagging the legs in. Rearview mirror's going to fold in. And then these tabs line up, but I wouldn't say they tab. It's a bit of a challenge. We'll get into that in a second. And then it just popped right open. Mother Mary full of grace. Alright. And then this tab's in the front. And then these things, this folds over and kind of tabs to itself. And then this flips up and tabs to the side of the helicopter rotor. Pegs. I wouldn't say tabs, I guess. It's more like pegs. This is a tab. And I'm having trouble getting it to fold. Why won't you fold? It's like the weakest joint in the thing. And then this. And then we gotta start getting things lined up properly, so. The main thing is these tabs. Now they're hook tabs. And they go into the forearm or the shoulders. The problem is the shape of the head allows the shoulders to push in like that. You know what I mean? So the shoulders actually run away from the tabbing action that you want to do. So one thing I do, you can do it with the tool of your choice, but I put something between the head and the shoulder, and then it's hard to demonstrate it like this, but you have to kind of push down. But then you can tab it, and then it's just a pain in the ass. It's really hard to get those tabs to go, and ultimately it's not the end of the world if they don't. But I forgot to fold out the wheel on this side. Why won't you unfold for me, wheels? There we go. And then you spread out the rotors and you plug in the swords. I just don't care to. Thank you. This is going to take long enough as it is. I had two other items to get to. In fact, we'll take a recess and I'll get into the two other items that I wanted to talk about. Recently, I saw a very nicely produced video that was basically a guy, I don't know where, I don't remember his name, but it was a very slickly produced video where he was transforming MP36, not stop motion, but just very carefully calibrated and cut motion. And he got to the feet, and the feet drive me crazy because nobody seems to know how to do the feet. Even this guy, even this very cleverly, slickly produced video, he's doing it wrong, in my humble opinion. So let's just, I'm just gonna kind of semi-transform the foot. Get out of my way, arm. Now you go on with yourself. And then we... And this goes there, and that's going to become the trigger eventually. Now listen. It seems like everyone, when they get to transforming the foot, they do the same silly thing, and I don't get it. So see if you can catch it when I transform the foot for gun mode. I need leverage. So lift this up, fold this. I mean, everyone has to do that no matter what they do. You know, this is going to happen no matter what you do. But then you can fold this back and rotate it around. Where you rotate this around. Okay, because the main thing I want to show you is going towards gun or towards robot. You see there. So what I see people do all the time is they articulate this joint out. You know, they like unfold the whole thing and then they refold the whole thing. But this thing doesn't have to be unfolded or refolded even once. And there's actually a bit of a burr to it that doesn't feel like it's meant to. This is a pin to hold a die-cast piece to a plastic piece. It is not a transformation pin, and it's not a hinge. It's a pin join, you know, and it's burred so that it's, you know, not all that easy to unfold it because you're not supposed to unfold it. So here we are for gun mode. This is a joint. So you fold this out, right? You rotate this 90 degrees, right? And then you fold out the whole leg. See how that swings by? You never have to unfold that joint, and you're not expected to. And I don't remember if the instructions show that joint unfolding, but I can't imagine they would do that because it's a die cast to plastic joint. Anyway, and then you fold it in like that, and then I got to put him back in his proper leg mode anyway, so I may as well do it. That is harrowing when you first get this figure, but if you know which direction you're going, going flat is pretty easy. You just kind of, but going fat is scary, so I like to do a chuck grip on both. And then you just kind of pull it out while expecting it to kind of rotate a little bit. But anyway. Why won't you get the fuck out of my way? Thank you. I mean, if you're ready, I don't want to press you. It's sad. He's gotten older, and now the joints are starting to loosen up. I noticed his mid bicep swivel's gotten really sloppy. The good news is if I could just get another one, maybe even with some of those improvements like the back plate from a KO company for like $100. So yeah, he's developed a bit of a flop. Now I had a viewer ask me, this was Max Mox, about transforming the leg for this guy. Namely, how do you separate this this joint? Because this panel shouldn't be part of this panel for robot mode. And there's like a double hinge there. You have to make sure that you flipped out these, of course. These are totally in the way. But the way I get it is there's a hook here, so you can just kind of, you're in the vicinity of that. You're not necessarily pulling on that hook, but you're just grabbing that end of the plastic shell. And this is going with it. You just, this was so easy when I practiced like 30 minutes ago, but suddenly. So you have to realize that the joint is at an angle. And so you're walking this thing out at an angle. And if you know which direction that is, it's actually pretty easy to, you know, grab hold of this part like that and, you know, walk this other part off of it. So if you're like this, you're just pulling that joint in that direction. So you don't have to pry at it or anything. You just have to realize the joint is an angle. And so pulling straight down will drive you nuts. Pulling straight back will drive you nuts. Pulling at an angle, just right. So that's that. Flip this guy out. Almost ready for the shelf. Just gotta put his gun back in his hand. Oh, that guy's ready for the shelf. All right, now. Whew. We'll get this guy to car, and then I think I'll call that the end of the video. What's the best triple changer figure? It's kind of chunky, and it has that like oversized chug feel to it that they all had back in the day. But I really liked how DX9's Astro Train, the weirdly named Chigger. I like how that thing transforms. It's pretty clever. As far as Masterpiece, I mean, they haven't done many triple changers in Chug. I don't know. Triple changers are always weird. I mean, frankly, the best recent triple changer that just nails all three modes perfectly is MMC's Ocular Max Impetus, their Vortex. Because it's a triple changer. It turns from a helicopter to a robot to an arm. And, you know, with the fist built in and everything, and the arm looking the way it does, it's, you know, a perfectly executed triple changer. So, there's your best triple changer. Alright. Now, assuming you had those tabbed, you'd have to get the tabs loose. I mean, they'd already be loose, because that's a flaw. The hips like to go, but they don't technically have to, because we're just unzigging the legs. And then I'm just going to do the whole... I'm going to do the back. I'm not going to go to Primordial. I'm just going to finish this real quick. Let's see here. This goes around like this. This goes like this. This rotates like that. Like that. This goes like this. This goes like this. And this rotates around. Oh, this is the stiff one. This like that. And it flips down like that. And then this flips up. Put the nose in here. You put the other thing in there. We rotate this around 180 degrees. We do the same thing over here. And rotate it this way 180 degrees. All right. And then to prepare for car mode, what we do is, you can kind of get that out of the way a little bit, but this is going to transition all the way around like that, assuming you've already turned this inward again, like for robot mode. So this goes all the way around like this, and then you can slide this, you can untab this part, get out of the way, and then this slides, it extends, and it rotates 180 degrees in and tabs in nice and firm right there. And then these, I like to put them like that, kind of park them there for getting ready for car mode. And then this can rotate the other way, so it came from this direction, and now it's going to keep going all the way around. And that's going to be the cockpit for vehicle mode. And we do the same thing over here. All right, so we are now ready to do the legs in vehicle mode. You have to keep them separated for now. Now let's kind of get back to Primordial on this end of it. You have to separate the boom, and all this comes out. And this is sloppy, I admit. Like, yay, it's not a parts former. I don't know. It is interesting where you're like, oh, all right. They go to a lot of trouble because they want to have this thing peeking over his shoulder in robot mode, just like a cartoon. 4,000 subscribers and only 4 Viendo? Only... Oh, you're talking about people viewing right now? I don't know, I don't know. I do a live stream. You love Fans Toy style transformations? Good lord, why? They're so ad hoc. They're like, oh yeah, this thing has to go over here. We'll put it on a chain. You'll just unplug it here and then plug it in over here. And there's a chain, but it's not a parts former. That's my experience with all the Fans Toys. This guy, like Fans Toy style, I had to lay him down on the platform all spread out because he can't hold himself. He can't hold any in between mode because there's floppy joints everywhere, and I hate that. That's one thing I'll say about Takara. For the most part, at any point during the transformation of a Takara figure, you can just wave the figure around and it's not going to move. That's how you design a figure. All right. So we're kind of back to primordial here. I gotta get these. Get the landing gear in. All right. Rotate this around. Get this around. Okay. There we go. Kind of primordial. And then these flip completely out for vehicle mode, as you can imagine. We'll raise up the headlights, or whatever they are. Alright. And then we're just tabbing this in here. I don't suppose we have to tab it in right away, because I've got to do the other thing. So let's get the rearview mirrors out of the way. These things flip up, they rotate 90 degrees, and they transition past the head all the way to the underside. Yeah, I'm forgetting stuff. So this part, it actually tabs there and there. So you can actually tab it in. Yeah, I was getting my sequencing wrong, because just make sure you don't get the rotor caught like that. Alright, so that's tabbed in. And then while these are still kind of loose and out of the way, we're folding at the second joint and then folding it up like that. This, and then fold this in like this. So you're just kind of curling this thing up. And then it flips up, revealing the KC lights on his belly. And you just have to line it up and tab it in so it goes like that. Same side. Same deal over here. Like that. And you have to make sure the boom is in before you do that. And then we can get the wheels squared away here. There we go. And you can take this, you flip it down. His head has to be facing forwards, like robot mode direction. Kind of tilt it like that, and you can get it into that cavity there. So that's where the head goes. And then these can finish flipping around to the bottom. Rotate back, and they tab right here and here to hide that. For some reason, I don't know why. But what you have now is you have this joint here where there's two joints. One slides a little to be forgiving. You're going to remember this, because this is right before the final car mode, and this is what's happening when you go to car mode. But I can't show you because everything else is going to be in the way at that point. But it's two hinges just kind of doing a double hinge move. Alright, so we prep the wheels ahead, the legs ahead of time. We just want these arms out of the way. And this flips over, rubs a little bit on its way by, unfortunately. Oh, and this can go ahead and be plugged in here. Like that. But remember, this has to be... I just had an epiphany about this, Jesus. Yeah, but it's really hard to manipulate the hips after you've already flipped them over, so I still stand by the slight rubbing you get. Alright, and then you can tab these together. Tab these together. if they will. Hello. Thank you. Alright. And then make sure that all this shit's out of the way. You can lower these like most of the way down and go ahead and turn the rotor. Now they have all the rotors kind of facing backwards, and you can do it that way if you want to. I just feel like this is a little cleaner. And this is one of your best opportunities to kind of sneak these past the rotors so that they're ahead of the rotors now. But then the arms have to reconfigure slightly, the only time they do. So we pop that loose. It's a real tight little snap peg. And we kind of Z it, you know, like this goes up while this panel goes down. And once we're at a 90-degree angle, then we can rotate this around most of the way. And then we're just going to go the rest of the way with it. And if everything lines up properly, there's a little tab on the wrist that tabs in there. So then this piece does the same sort of zigzag that you did to put it in helicopter mode, so it's going right there. And we'll do the same thing for this guy. And then we put that in place. So now we're ready to compact the car. So we're just going to have those up a little bit, have the rotor sideways. Remember that zigzag? Here's what it looks like now. So we just zigzagged it. And we can go ahead and tab the arms. That's one of your strongest connections here, so it helps get everything lined up properly. If you can tab that, then it's lined up. And then these, there's a tab on this one, and then the other one, because the way they work is a reverse, so it's a tab into a slot instead of a slot into a tab. There we go. That's pretty much the bottom. Then we can take the windows and fold them down, get the mirrors out of the way. Jesus. And you just have to make sure that they go well ahead of the mirrors before you go trying to tab them, that they tab there. And then the back end, we flip out these panels. We're almost there, home stretch. Flip out these panels and tab this over onto the crotch and tab this down. Same thing over here. So it does all tab together, but it's, you know, it's the Wienermobile. It's a funky, stupid car mode. Woo, let's check. Another reason, Nelson, that I use black gloves when I'm shooting is if I'm using my hand as a prop, you know, to like hold the figure up against a black background. And my hand's not that brightly lit during a video, you know, and it's coming in from a different angle. If I use black gloves, then it makes it easier to edit out the hand later, because even if I don't get it perfect all the way up next to the rim of the figure, it's just going to be black anyway. So that's maybe the main reason I wear the gloves. I don't wear them all the time when I shoot. I still get the feeling Sworder would look hella cool in other colors. Yeah. Max Mox, you'll have to rewind to see the... I already did the thing for Prowl. Max Mox, I did Prowl. Is that you? I thought that was you. Anyway, we'll shoot the shit a little bit while I transform this back to display mode. Have I seen the movie Masterpiece Starscream? I have. I don't understand why at a Masterpiece grade they can't bring themselves to have the thing look like a plane from the side. Why do all these planes from Hasbro and Takara have to look like planes from the top? But then when you rotate around to the side, you can see a bunch of robot hanging off the plane. It's a beautiful plane. I don't know why they wouldn't want to capture it completely. I don't know how, but I guarantee you the modern Unique Toys could do a movie. In fact, they should. They've been doing the movie line. They should show Takara and Hasbro how it's done and do their own Masterpiece Starscream. I bet it would be hella cool. I bet they would know how to make it look clean in all modes. But Takara and Hasbro can't do it. They're just like, you know, you look at it from the top, looks like a plane, it's fine. Doesn't have to look like a plane from the side or the bottom. Not even the side. I mean, the bottom, maybe I could forgive, like if you look directly at the bottom and you're like, oh, there's a piece of Starscream there. Maybe I could forgive them that. But it's ugly. I mean, I think the robot mode looks cool, and I'll probably get it, but still, I think that's sloppy engineering. I realize with all the cars, they don't have to worry about the bottom, but they worry about the side. A car looks like a car from the side. I don't know why a plane can't look like a plane from the side. It's just cheating. It's just lazy. But it looks cool in robot mode. So. I wonder if I can go ahead and just tab this in right now. Am I going to get away with it? Probably. Yeah. That's another way to do it. And this rotated or something. I don't know. Yeah. It needs to be like that. And this tabs in. And then this turns into a foot. And this flattens down. So that's kind of cool. You can kind of put this away, put the knee away, and completely tab this up before you even touch the foot. Kind of cool. Foot. Hello. Thank you, my love. Stand up on something else. Don't worry, I went back and watched Prowl Streak. My open play Big Spring arrived with my Prowl. Yeah, how do you like that open and play Big Spring? I find the helicopter mode in particular is kind of funny looking. But the robot mode looks great. I mean, I'd say it looks better than even... I mean, Fans Toys had a handsome robot mode, even if they don't know how to transform things properly. The ankles in particular on Fans Toys version of Springer are just... What the... Thanks, Ruby Mirror. It's the last time, though, I promise. You can go park now. There you go. I probably don't need to do that. Yeah, I gotta pull that up. There we go. These tend to be a little stiff. And then, yeah, you gotta go after these. These side panels can be a little tricky. I usually use a sharp blade of a knife, but I don't have it with me, so I'm gonna have to disturb it with this file. It's the only thing I have around that's pointy enough. Like I said, I'm getting plastic spludgers. There's a lot that seem to come with like full kits for peeling the screen off a cell phone, but you don't have to get that carried away. So I found a set that was just like 3 spludgers without all the other crap that I don't need. There we go. This goes in. There we go. Go ahead and tab the shoulders in. Go. And then this whole thing, if you remember, rotates around. And then there's tabs there that end up in the right position when you flatten the hips out. And then you fold the very extreme joint, and it tabs in there. And it tabs in there. And then this just kind of tabs in here so it can stick up over his shoulder, and this flips up and stays out of the way. Then we slide the arm forward, and unfold the elbow, 180, 180, set the shoulder, there we go. I'm off camera. Who am I? All right. And we're back to Sandstorm. And we did talk about him, so let's put him up on the stage and leave him up there for a while. Maybe YouTube picked that for the picture, so I don't have to mess with it. And we'll just pan up a little bit. All right. So is that it? Down to 5 viewers, not talking about a hot figure. Everyone's like, I don't want anything to do with that. I don't want to watch that. Thanks. That, and I don't think very many people subscribe to me either. Because how many views did I have? In the last 28 days, where did it show it? So in the last 28 days, I had 1.7 thousand watch hours. For some reason, I can't find something that'll just tell me views. Okay. I get 63,000 views in the last 28 days, but I only have 4,000 subscribers. I get the distinct impression that there's a lot of people that just don't subscribe. So I probably have more subs. The 5 of you watching or the 100 people that will eventually watch this live stream, hey, subscribe or something, you know? What are you doing? Sandstorm did come with a couple of accessories. He came with the instruction manual. He came with this like weird wheel, because I guess in some episode he handed a wheel to somebody or something. And of course he came with his swords. I like Big Spring because he isn't perfect, but he's playable. Many say you can't play with MPs. I play with MPs plenty. I like Open and Play defies that standpoint with the figure. Hey, listen, if you're gonna play with that Open and Play Big Spring anyway, maybe you loan them to me and I take pictures of them. I take real good care of them, but you know, don't loan me a figure that's like mint in box, because I'm gonna touch it. I'm gonna transform it a time or two, or like a dozen times. So I gotta figure out the right sequence, you know. But back when I did Astro Train and Chigger and Gewalt for DX9, that was a guy that loaned me like 8 figures. Very nice of him. You see him credited in the video. And of course, Big Bad Toy Store, or the Chosen Prime loaned me figures for a bit, sporadically. But I just didn't like making his videos for him. Because he's not just a toy store. He's trying to make it on YouTube. He's going to be a YouTube player. He's got to have his own channel. Have a good day, everyone. Yeah, sure. Name for comments. All right. Well, I'm all talked out. The 4 of you want to say anything before I go? Or the 100 that will watch all the way to the end of the video later. They totally will. All right. Just gonna hang out here for a minute. Make sure there's no last-minute comment that I overlook. This is not an encouragement to comment. I'm just letting you know I'm leaving soon. But someone could conceivably say something. What a great Megatron. It's like the best Megatron, I mean, except for the back. But otherwise, pretty good. And hey, this is like the best Masterpiece Sandstorm ever made. It's the best one. Don't you know? Where's the focal point? Oh. It's a shitty camera. I should get a better camera. Alright. Good night, everybody. Excelsior and all that.